background interference. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please mute your mics and speakers unless you're speaking. Thank you. As this is a virtual meeting, I will be taking a formal roll call of attendance. Chair Ross,
Present.
Board Member Adams,
Present.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Present.
Board Member Gavin,
Present.
Board Member Giwob,
Present.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Present.
Board Member Young, Board Member Young.
Present.
Thank you. And Mr. General Manager.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, there are no members of the public wishing to provide comments. As such, we may proceed with the regular calendar. The first order of business is a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, May 27, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Victor, motion.
Second?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 None opposed, correct? We will now proceed with the reports on this calendar. Chair?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone, and good morning to my fellow board members. I'm going to do a short report and then turn it over to Vito. And then we have actually three presentations to share with the rest of the board. So I'll go through my list pretty quickly. I wanted to give the board a quick update that we continue to work with the monitor and work around the things that we're able to accomplish inside the HUD agreement, even with the restrictions that COVID has placed on us. We are working specifically with the monitor to discuss our best efforts to work with the monitor in the Southern District to exchange both ideas, information, and data around the work that we have been able to accomplish, but also begin to set the stage for what is likely going to be a reset of some of the deadlines and requirements in the agreement that will have to either be stretched or reset because of COVID. So that work has continued, as well as other work related to the requirements of the agreement. And as we get closer to a time when we're actually negotiating the new deadlines or any new aspects of the agreement that flow from what we've learned about COVID or this postponement of things that we've had to deal with, we'll be back to brief the board on that. In addition, we've continued to work on the transformation and reorganization planning. That is really something that we intend to stay focused on. That too will be stretched out a little bit in terms of deadlines, but we have our team in place internally. We have a consulting team in place also to help us with that. And as that develops and moves forward, we will again be briefing the board on that. Coming up, and maybe a preview of coming attractions for those of us who haven't been in movie theaters for a long time. There's the capital plan, and we want to provide the board with a briefing on the capital plan that we're going to be proposing, and we'll do that at the July meeting. And this would be the plan to complement the 62,000 units that, plus or minus, that are already covered by RAD and PAC. This would be our plans on how we would propose to HUD and the larger community, how we would propose raising money to stabilize the property and preserve those properties in the other 110,000 units. So we have begun to slowly introduce these ideas, and we will do a board briefing at the July meeting and allow time during that briefing for questions and answers and discussion. So that'll give us something to look forward to and we hope would be very exciting. It's been a long road since last fall when we started working on this. And the last thing I'll say, I want to give a shout out to the folks on the NYCHA staff, particularly intergovernmental, but also others. The House is currently shaping a large infrastructure bill, and that bill has a lot of our ideas in it. And we've collaborated with the public housing industry groups and others to try and advance housing, especially public housing, as an infrastructure investment. So right before I got on the WebEx for this, language is being debated that would provide for the implementation, if we could get this to become law, of a $70 billion appropriation for public housing investment. That's nationally. NYCHA would be entitled to a significant portion of that. And we're actually hoping to shape the language in the appropriations bill to make sure that the money would be distributed both under the capital fund formula, but also in a competitive fashion, especially to address serious needs. So we continue to work on those things and support our delegation, who's really been advocating very strongly for sufficient capital for some time. Don't know what's going to happen to this bill. It's incredibly large. It's about $1.5 trillion. It includes not only public housing, but other infrastructure things such as broadband, transportation, all the usual suspects. But we're very excited that at least this could come out of the House and be teed up in a way for discussion down the road. I wanted to end with that note. I think both the capital plan we're going to present later in the summer and things like the House infrastructure bill, these are hopeful signs that in the long run, we can do the marathon, I think, that we've been asked to do, both because of COVID and also because of the social justice issues that have been raised by communities all across the country. So I wanted to turn over some other updates to the general manager. And Vito, take it away, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I actually have just two quick items, and they're both good news items. And so the first is just an update on what I had previously reported at last month's board meeting, which is an update on the air conditioner installation program. And again, I just really want to thank the mayor for introducing this program, not only for NYCHA residents but for all New York City residents. As of yesterday, we have successfully installed over 7,000 air conditioners. I don't have an exact number because honestly, the program is moving so quickly on doing the installations that the reporting is lagging a little bit. But that's good news, right? That's actually something that I'm fine with. They are really moving at lightning speed. We have more than 200 people working on this initiative, both contractors as well as in-house staff, as well as residents. Part of this initiative, one of our air conditioning installation contractors are using about 50 to 60 residents each day to assist with the installations. So it really has been a tremendous effort, touching on so many different parts of the authority. Too many people to thank. I will say quickly that the faces of the residents after they receive their free air conditioner, and these are seniors who have not had air conditioning before. It's priceless. And I did have a conversation with the mayor about where we are on this program, and he was equally as excited about doing something good and positive for our residents. The last update I want to also provide is on our playgrounds. Again, another piece of good news. As part of the Phase 2 reopening plan for New York City, the mayor has approved that the New York City Parks Department and NYCHA as well can reopen playgrounds that are safe to reopen. I preface that by saying that some of our playgrounds, were not able to be reopened due to either ongoing capital work or other safety concerns. But we were able to successfully, in a one-day period, reopen almost 77% or more than 500, almost 525 of our playgrounds. That initiative took place on Monday, and we had a few additional openings yesterday. But over the course of a 2-day period, we were able to open up, again, about 525 playgrounds. I was out in the field on Monday traveling around the 5 boroughs, and just, again, the expressions on the faces of the children who now have access to their playgrounds and the equipment again. It was priceless. We will be putting signs up at the playgrounds just to remind residents about promoting health and safety. The guidelines that are being issued by the city health department. So we will be putting up signs reminding folks to wear face coverings, to wash their hands, to maintain social distancing. But again, it's just been these are 2 really good items to report out on, and I'm grateful that we're able to do this.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, General Manager, a total of 7 residents that I talked to, that process with the air conditioners is moving along very well, and they like the way it's going. So that's only 7 people I've spoken to. Myself.
Well, that's you know what? That's 7 more people that did not have air conditioning before, and that's great to hear. It really is. And like I said, just the expressions on our residents' faces when they turn that air conditioner on for the first time, and these are residents who have not had air conditioning before. Right? It's just an unbelievable experience, and I'm just glad that we're part of it. I'm very appreciative of that, and thank you for that comment.
No problem. Chairman Russ?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in regards to RAD moving forward, there seems to be some, well, not this disdain, but confusion about the options of Section 8 and the other option that residents have going into that program and the conversions. Is this going to be a problem going forward? Because there's not maybe misinformation, but a lot of uproar about the choice of them having to take Section 8 as opposed to just paying the full rent. Is that going to hinder the program going forward?
No, of course, you have to remember what RAD is doing. RAD is moving from public housing subsidy to Section 8 subsidy. And we have done a number of things. In fact, during the past few months, we've worked on a number of issues around the transition from the public housing subsidy to the housing voucher subsidy to address some of the things that residents and others have brought forward to us. So, let's remember, RAD has evolved since HUD first introduced it, 6 to 8 years ago. We now have robust resident protections across the board, spelled out both in the RAD notices and in our documents. We have a model that retains the best elements of public housing in terms of due process and protection. And we are working with staff and eventually with residents, likely, some of which might even be in maybe not the Manhattan bundle, but the bundles after, to address some sticking points when you move from one subsidy to the other. If the board is interested, we could do updates or short update after we do the capital discussion in July. But some folks just do not like RAD because it represents a change in subsidy. But my response to that has been the reason to do RAD is you are getting maximum use of the subsidy that's available. Plus, in certain of the deals, you're getting 25% of your units as vouchers. Those vouchers are worth about $600 a unit per unit a month more. So the property actually has more income to operate with in those models than it did prior to just being public housing. So we could provide the board with some updates on that, but we closed a bundle right at the end of last year, right prior to COVID. we still intend to close on the Manhattan bundle, and we could give the board an update. But we also have spent a lot of time on the transition. So if there's specific complaints, you can direct them to me, Joe, and I'd be glad to talk to people.
Okay, I know you do town hall meetings and stuff like that, because I've seen you.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, there's also a bunch of rumors out there. Some of them are just not that accurate. But if you've got someone who's concerned, don't be afraid to share my email or something, and we can get them information or get them updated.
oh, okay. It's no particular, like, it's just that when the people are entering, they don't understand that they have to do certain things like address
Right.
rent situations, maybe
Right.
tenant occupancy that people might be there that not supposed to be there. A bunch of issues that they have to be aware of so they can get ready
Sure.
for the transition. And they don't seem to be getting the information they say at some of the meetings or whatever. That's all. A heads
Yeah.
up.
No, that's fine. We can. We've spent a lot of time thinking about this because the goal of RAD is not to displace anybody. So we've had some of the RAD developers and partners, when they've come in, they've forgiven back rent, for example, and started over, reset the accounts. We're also looking at ways to make it easier to adjust family size when we do RAD
Okay.
and deal with that. So if you hear something, don't be afraid to send folks our way. We'll talk to them.
I won't.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, terrific.
Chairman Russ? Chairman Russ?
Yes, Victor.
Hello?
Hi.
I would really appreciate an update in July, because there are certain things that aren't clear to the residents, especially those units or developments that have already gone through all the passing of the HUD, uh, uh, how they feel that they have moved forward and passed everything that HUD has asked of them, but due to COVID, no movement has been made to make the transition. I understand it's a difficult task, but I think that if we explain some of that as to when, more or less, if there's an idea when they're going to begin the transition, instead of being in limbo, they might feel a little more comfortable.
So, Victor, if you're thinking of specific sites and deals, let me know, because are you talking also about work in the units or just the whole closing and all that stuff?
Oh, I'm talking about the whole closing, the whole conversion. I mean, we went through many testing in our apartments,
Right, right.
repairs, and all of that, in the hopes that once we pass that and HUD approves, then we can move forward with the transition and the hospitality suites when the transit. And none of that, everything has been put on hold.
Well, let's. Some of that is due to the pandemic, but I'll tell you what. Let's make a note. I'll have Jonathan from real estate give you a call, and we can do an update offline. But we can also do something in July for the whole board.
Thank you very much. We
Sure.
really
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you.
my pleasure.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, next, we have a report on preparing NYCHA Central Office to return to work locations. Carrie?
Hi, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
We can go to, thank you, Jackie. Good morning, board members, chair, GM. So we have been working hard as New York on Pause has moved to phase 2. And I think we can go to the first slide, the next slide, please, Marielle. So just to give you a sense of where we are, I'm sure that there will be a lot more work to do, and of course in this ever-changing landscape, things change in a moment. But as you all know, on May 28th, New York State issued an interim guidance for office-based work during the COVID-19 public health emergency. This guidance sets forth guidelines for office-based activities during phase 2 of the governor's New York Forward Plan. So the guidelines establish minimum requirements for an employer, and the employer may choose to do additional things and increase restrictions. So we looked at the guidance and we divided it into sort of three categories: places, people, and processes. And we also and we are going to apply the guidance to our central office locations, which are 250 Broadway, 90 Church, Long Island City, 787 Atlantic in Brooklyn, Fordham Plaza in the Bronx, and Waters Place in the Bronx. We convened a working group to help us plan our central office's return to work locations, and the group is represented by the chair's office, GM's office, environmental health and safety, the Department of Real Estate Services, HR, the law department, and IT. And we've also been in regular communication with our agency partners like DCAS and OLR, as well as other partners throughout the city, including the MTA. We had a very informative conversation with the MTA a couple of weeks ago. So DCAS is going to be putting out a series of webinars to review the city's guidance on how to meet the New York State requirements. And we will be participating in that webinar as well. That's later, the first one is later this week. Next slide, please. So just to take you through a little bit on each of the categories that we outlined. First, let's look at the places. And so to prepare for our reopening, we've been regularly communicating with our building landlords. One good thing is that all of our central office buildings have remained open during the pandemic, so there have been no major infrastructure shutdowns. We've engaged the landlords to make sure that each location has the maximum filtration and fresh air exchange in order to minimize the airborne contagion. We have worked with the landlords to institute additional cleaning and disinfecting practices. So in the daytime, we added sanitizing of common areas like door handles and elevator buttons. Every night, we've added sanitizing of PCs, desks, keyboards, phones, and we will be asking that desks and workstations are kept clear, and that we will be instituting a sanitizing of seats as well. Throughout this time, we have also added a one-time complete sanitizing of an affected workstation, as well as the surrounding area, as determined by our environmental health and safety department when there has been a report of a confirmed or suspected COVID case. So we have been working with landlords very closely on the cleaning and disinfecting practices. And so this is really returning to the workforce to the central office work location will just be a continuation of our dialogue on cleaning and sanitizing. We've also, per the New York State interim guidance, per the New York State interim guidance, we can open without partitions that are higher in the now popular cubicle workstations where we have low partitions, as long as we maintain appropriate social distancing and provide face coverings, which we have been providing to our staff. So, but however, in terms of doing more, earlier on we had ordered workstation partitions for the teller windows and the security and reception areas at the walk-in center. So we're very pleased that we've been able to have those already installed. And although we are not opening the walk-in centers to customers just yet, it's something that we've already done. And as you might imagine, the lead time on partitions is quite long now that everybody is looking for them. We have already ordered and begun to put up appropriate signage and labeling, and we'll be delivering it throughout our central office locations. The landlords have been doing so as well. And in terms of trying to figure out how much how dense we can be within our space, we've created transitional seating plans for up to 50% occupancy. So the guidance provides that we're permitted to have up to 50% occupancy in our space. And so we've looked at how people can be seated so that they can best maintain social distancing wherever that's possible. And we've also looked at how we can mark corridors and walkways so that they're one direction, kind of like how you see in a supermarket nowadays. And finally, we've identified common touch points and high-risk areas, and we've tried to develop a plan to remove or mitigate risk while ensuring the safety of the staff who have been occupying and will be reoccupying our space. Next slide, please. So now to the people. So as you know, many of NYCHA central office staff have been teleworking rather successfully during this time period, enabling everybody to shelter in place as has been required. So now that we're transitioning back to working in our work locations, we will be asking our departments to create teams within their departments or units so that they can create a rotating reporting schedule, and we can reduce in-office staff, and that will enable us to achieve the lower density that's required in the office. We will also be working on staggering arrival and departure times so that we can ensure a steady and safe flow of traffic in our elevators and lobbies. And as I said before, we have been and will be providing staff with masks and hand sanitizer. And of course, in order to sort of the flip side of rotating reporting requirements, we will be allowing staff ongoing work from home privileges. And if needed, they will be able to submit through a reasonable accommodation or other review process in the event that working in the office is a health and safety burden to a particular employee. Finally, we are working with our IT department to provide headsets and cameras to all staff who have NYCHA desktop computers for use during virtual meetings. So even when staff is going to be in the office in the next several months, we will be attempting to limit the number of in-person meetings and continue to have virtual meetings. Next slide, please. Finally, we have been working on a few processes in order to ensure a smooth transition back into the workspace. We've been leveraging technology to meet the health screening requirement that has been established by the state in a confidential manner. We are also working with our landlords to ensure ongoing cleaning and disinfecting protocols for various scenarios, and ensure this is a work in progress, because as people begin to occupy this space, sure, we will identify additional needs. And so our constant communication with our landlords throughout this time that will be very helpful in order for us to maintain that relationship. And finally, we are developing quality assurance protocols to ensure that the newly implemented measures are performed adequately. So those are the things that we've been working on. We are continuing to work very hard in trying to find a way for our staff to be able to return to work in a manner that's safe and healthy for everyone involved.
Ms. Chu?
Yes.
I saw that the staff has some consideration for a reasonable accommodation. When the walk-in center is open, what about tenants that arrive and might have issues with mobility, blindness, or hearing impairment? What are there any considerations going to be made there for residents when they come into the centers? I'm just asking. Like at some banks, the window is very low for wheelchair people. That's one example. Is there anything in place for that or pending? I'm just asking.
So I believe we do have some accommodations already in the walk-in centers. When when I mentioned before, perhaps that there would be reasonable accommodation requests, that I was referring to staff perhaps having health concerns about returning to the workspace. So, but of course, in terms of serving our community, we have always had measures in place to address, you know, any of the issues that we described.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, it's Catherine. I had a few questions. One was on, are you going to do health screenings of tenants when we start to do walk-ins?
I don't think we've gotten that far in our planning. I'm not sure what the New York State requirement for that is. Right now, what we're planning is just the reentry of our central office work locations. So not opening the walk-in centers to the public just yet.
What does leveraging technology mean?
We are going to try to do the health screening in a way where you can do it before you get to the location. So some sort of survey.
Okay, all right. Do you know how many positives you have?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can get that information to you.
That's all.
Okay.
Ms. Ju?
Yes.
Hi, this is Victor Gonzalez.
Hi,
Can you hear
Mr.
me?
Gonzalez.
Hi. With regards to signage and labeling, I have to make a couple of phone calls before so we're going to do this offline. But I wanted to tell you that I have questions about signage and labeling with issues more or less at a more local level to different developments. But again, I have to make the phone call to be more accurate when I do request or ask you the questions, as well as the reason with the staggered hours. Again, in the interest of saving time, I will ask those offline. But I wanted you to know that I'll be asking you questions about that.
Okay. That's
right,
fine.
thank you.
I'll look for your call.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. If there are no further questions, thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to the report on COVID-19 rent hardship interim recertification process. Sylvia?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sylvia Audi. I'm the Vice President for Public Housing Tenancy Administration. I'm here to provide you a brief review of the enhancements that we made around the rent hardship process back in mid-May. Next slide, Mariella, please. And we're also going to update you on the metrics that we've been monitoring related to this process. So as a reminder, submitting an interim recertification for rent hardship is easier than ever. Residents can request an interim recertification at any time. We continue to offer 3 options to submit requests to us via the self-service portal, which is a much more simplified interface, over the phone by calling the CCC hotline and selecting option 5, and then lastly by requesting a paper packet be mailed to the household, and these requests can be made through property management. The CCC staff are also available to answer any questions that residents may have related to the rent hardship policies under COVID-19. And lastly, we want to remind you that residents can continue to self-certify their loss or change of income and do not need to provide supporting documents as proof at this time. However, if the documents are available, we will gladly accept them. Next slide, please. We have been monitoring various types of interims under COVID-19 or since March 12th and for 2020 as a whole. Staff are reviewing each request received and determining if we can process the interim or complete an overdue annual recertification and cancel that interim request. Just keep in mind that before an interim is canceled, staff are contacting the head of household to confirm the cancellation. NYCHA has received over 32,000 requests for interim recertifications year to date, and of those, 21,000 since March 12th alone. Staff have processed over 16,000 interims to date, and nearly 11,000 of those are just under COVID-19 period. We have less than 2,000 still pending. Next slide. So a subset of those interims are the rent hardship requests. Nearly 70% of interim recertification requests received since March 12th have been for rent hardship. Staff have been diligently processing these requests, with almost 9,000 requests processed under COVID-19 and almost 12,000 year to date. We have just over 1,000 still pending under the rent hardship reason type. The vast majority of these pending cases are less than 15 days old. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, staff are also processing annual recertifications. Over 51,000 annual recertifications have been processed since March 12th, and nearly 90,000 year to date. As a reminder, rent increases are still postponed for 3 months from the original effective date. This means that residents are provided additional time for the new rent to kick in. Households can request an interim at any time if they experience a loss or change of income within that time period or even before. The numbers shown on this chart are a more detailed view of the charts in the previous slide. So next slide, Mariella. Oh, sorry. There was a question slide in there, but I'm happy to take any questions on the process if anybody has them.
Good morning, Board Member Adam. Hi.
Hello.
Is this all this assistance and help? Is it just going to be related to the pandemic, or will there be any people that can apply pre-pandemic that might have had ongoing rent issues before this happened?
Oh yes, of course. This doesn't have to, the rent hardship process doesn't have to be specific to income loss because of COVID. It can just be any income loss. It's just a more simplified way of doing it because of the current situation. We wanted to make sure that there were no barriers for our residents to report a loss or a change of income to us.
Okay. I think, and Section 8 has nothing to do with this then, right? They have that bearing on it at all.
Section 8 did adopt the same process, and they are also using the over-the-phone option. I'm not sure if LaKeisha Miller's on the meeting, but maybe she can speak a little bit more about the Section 8.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm on. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning. Yes, we did adopt the interim recertification process. We are testing our reports to validate the numbers and how they're reporting out. So we will have a similar report to Sylvia's pretty soon. We are also accepting all kinds of interim recertifications, not necessarily pandemic related.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Board Member Gonzalez.
Hello.
Hi. So there are certain concerns with developments that are within the transition, unfunded and PAC, and so they cannot determine what the rent is going to be. And so when you call the management office, they're saying, well, you're really not under us anymore. You're under whatever company it is. And they have not contacted us with regards to either adjusting the rent, whether up or down, or does it remain the same? So in that case, what most people are doing is paying whatever the last amount that they were told to, and that's what we're paying. What happens if all of a sudden now that amount changes when the conversion takes place? And are they gonna chastise us for either not paying the higher amount if that's the area where it goes to? For example, right? I'm just
Victor, the rent formulas for public housing and vouchers are pretty nearly the same.
Right. But,
so unless someone is added to the household who brings income to the household, and that's agreed to, that would be one way rent could change. But no one's going to be penalized if there's processing yet to be done. We just aren't going to do that. And
okay.
And NYCHA works with the public housing staff, so residents should not be concerned that somehow on the other side of transition, there's some enormous rent bill that's going to come due.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, because with a few exceptions, the formulas look pretty nearly identical, and everything like deductions and the main parts of what's income, what's not income, and so forth are the same in both programs. So there might be, additions to the household that we agree to. There might be some things like that that could change your income, but we'll take care of that as part of the transition process.
Okay. All right. There's just still other questions, but those are minor, which I can ask at a later date. Thank you very much.
This is Lakeisha. Can I just add really quickly for
Please.
those residents who are on Section 8 or even still a public housing resident, they should still be submitting their request for an interim recertification through their normal process if there is a current need.
The management offices are letting the residents know that because you're part of the transition, they no longer have anything to do with it. That it's the company that's coming to take over. And we haven't heard from them since the pandemic.
Offline, I'll contact you so we can talk about the particular property because we're still handling it.
So,
okay, thank you.
Victor, one other thing I'll say is someone is still responsible, no matter the status. And we'll make sure that we get that information to folks. There's no lapse of responsibility because of a transition. All right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Works for me.
We'll be clear about it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, hello. I have
Oh.
a question. This is Jacqueline.
Yes.
Can you tell me once again the time frame for the interim rent change to go into effect once someone submits income information?
Sure.
Would it go into effect the following month?
Yes. So it goes into effect the first of the following month.
And that's whether it goes up or down?
Well, that's only if it goes down. If it goes up, we have the rent increase postponement in place. So if the rent were to go up, they have 90 days or 3 months for that rent to increase. So there's a grace period.
Okay, the rent increase postponement.
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia, Lakeisha, Chair. Next, we have a temporary board approved suspension report. Steve?
Good morning. We are pleased to provide an update on the temporary board approved suspension report. These are for the weatherization program, or WAP, and the city heating plant program. CPD is required per the board resolution to report on the number of contracts and the change orders associated to these two programs. The first one that I'll speak to, actually, if you could go to the next slide, thank you. If you could move to the next slide, that would be great. These are the two programs, the heating plant program and the weatherization assistance program. If you could go to the next slide. For the heating plant program, this is associated to board resolution number 18-3, 28-6. Contracts awarded to date are $256,945,159. This is for 9 contracts at 11 developments, all of which are in construction, and all of them are on schedule. Financing for this program is city funded, but due to the city moratorium, we moved the funding over to the federal pipeline for the next 6 months. 5 of the 9 projects, if you could go to the next slide, please, have change orders. And they are identified here in a chart with the development, the original contract, the number of change orders to date, the change order value, and the percent of the original contract. If you go to the next slide. The second item is the WAP, or Weatherization Assistance Program. This is associated to Board Resolution 19-925-16. The contracts awarded to date are worth $997,736.62. At this point in time, there are no change orders to date on the 6 projects. Those projects are on schedule. That concludes that portion of it. The first slide that you saw is the capital spend dollars that we provide to you each month. This is illustrating that capital in the month of May. These are certified payrolls. This is checks that are given out to contracts of ours. Hit $67 million. This is a little bit lower than previous months, but it illustrates that during the COVID-19 pandemic, that we continued to do work that was essential, and we are continuing to do that. Next month, you will see a slowdown in the city spend. That will be the first month of the requisitions coming in as part of the 6-month moratorium.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Yeah, Steve. Are there numbers that possibly reflect monies lost or not lost, but it's never told when work is stopped for one reason or another on a project where the contractors have just stopped for whatever reason? What would that be considered? I'm just saying, you know, because you have certain projects that have just halted. So where would that be reflected in these numbers, if they are?
Board Member Adams, thank you very much for that question. These wouldn't be reflected here at this point in time. We are doing a risk analysis of all the projects that were put on hold, and we are presenting that to OMB and City Hall. The work associated to that, the city administration gave us some money, or we've moved some money over into the federal pipeline to make sure that the sites that were closed down during the moratorium had safety and security on a regular basis. And then we are analyzing what the startup costs for each of the projects are. Those depend on the size of the project and where the project was. Particularly at this point in time, we're only seeing additional startup costs in the construction phase, no projects that were in design and planning or procurement. There would be also the escalation cost of a 6-month. We are calculating that approximately, because it's a half a year, somewhere around 1.5%. So 1.5% of the construction costs is a risk factor associated to additional costs. And so that is the analysis that we are doing right now, and we can present that information to the board once we have identified all of the risks associated to the 6-month moratorium.
Well, that would be good, because I would like to see that, Steve. Thank you.
Yes.
Steve, I have Board Member Gonzalez.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. I've noticed in the chart, the color-coded chart, that interiors and elevators weren't part of this capital project division funding or spending source. Why would that be when we do know that we currently are trying to improve on our elevators?
So, thank you very much, Board Member Gonzalez. So it has to do where the project is in the pipeline. So those projects that, let's say, for example, our state elevator program is currently in design. This is the first month, not May, but June will be the first month that we have requisitions in from the designers that are doing the elevator work. So you wouldn't see this in a capital spend yet because those requisitions are just coming in now. And until they become certified and we write the check, which would be the following month, because we try to pay within our average right now, payment of contractors is 29 days, is that you wouldn't see that until the next line. The elevator projects currently in design outside of the state pipeline are being done in-house, and so there wouldn't be an expense in terms of the capital projects spend rate, because those are staff costs. Those aren't a consultant doing the work. So at this point in time, it's not that we are not doing elevator work. It's just that it's not in a position in which there is a invoice that has come in and that we are paying for that work at this point in time.
Would you be so kind as to give me an example of interiors?
Yep. So interior work could be part of the weatherization program, where we are putting doing work on the interiors pieces. Interiors work could be part of the EPC program, and that's where you see a lot of this work. This is the heat sensors on the inside of the apartments, the temperature gauge sensors, and some of the other interior works, which would be the sink work that we're doing, as well as the in grinders. Excuse me, that was the word I was trying to come up with. Work that we're doing within the kitchens. Other interior work would be associated to community centers and plumbing and bathroom work, but there's no, in this scenario, the yellow lines in this spending year are not for our work that would be comprehensive modernization or plumbing work in terms of the bathrooms. There probably in this work is a little bit of gas riser work. We've been doing that. That would be considered interiors work in this slide.
So just out of curiosity, the interiors, where would that spending expenditure show up? Since it's not showing up in this particular slide.
Are you referring to in apartment work?
Well, I'm just going by what I'm looking at now, and like I said in the beginning, I didn't see elevators, I didn't see interiors money being spent. So I'm assuming that those dollars show up somewhere.
So those are here. There's the dark orange is the interiors. So if I look at the federal plan, you have a light blue, that's the exterior work. There's a dark orange, that's interiors. Heating plant, and then grounds work. You are correct. There's no elevators in the federal pipeline in terms of capital spend at this point in time.
Okay.
So you see a little bit of interiors in the federal, city, and the EPCs, and as that work.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Does that help? Okay. Great.
Okay.
Board Member Young.
Excuse me.
Member Young. Steve, I just had a question regarding the weatherization program. Can you talk a little bit about the ventilation improvements? What type of work is going to be done?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for asking that question. The weatherization contracts, the scope of this work is there's a number of different, mostly on our scattered sites, but there are things like lighting upgrades in the developments, particularly in the apartments and the common areas, to decrease our electrical costs. Usually there's ventilation improvements at the developments. There's replacement of, for example, non-Energy Star or inefficient refrigerators at the developments. Usually these weatherization programs have window replacements, and some of them have boiler modifications or replacements associated to them. And that's in essence, it's about making sure that we can have a sustainable and decrease our energy costs associated to those and typically scattered sites. The WAP program works mostly through our scattered sites.
Can you talk a little bit more about the actual ventilation improvement? I understand everything else, but what are you doing in terms of the ventilation? How are you making improvements in that area?
Mm-hmm. So many of the ventilation programs that we do are focused around the bathrooms. In some scenarios, we have bathrooms that do not have an outside window, and in those cases, they have mechanical ventilation associated to them. In some cases, there is mechanical ventilation associated to the kitchens, and so the weatherization program is going in and making sure that that ventilation systems are cleaned. Usually, the grills are cleaned, the ductwork is looked at, and if the vent system on the top is working. There are other pieces in terms of what we do with the ventilation. I don't think in this program at this point in time, but there has been in the past where just simply undercutting a door on a bathroom, meaning taking a little bit of the bottom portion of that door out, which creates airflow and ventilation through that bathroom and make sure that the dry air comes in and replaces the moist air in the bathroom, which would decrease mold. Does that answer your question? We could also, if you would like, of the 6 projects that we have right now, we could give you a specific scope of each of those projects.
Okay. If there are no further questions, comments, Steve, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Can we talk offline in regards to this? Hello?
Yes.
Can you repeat the question? You were breaking up, Member Young.
Hello, can you hear me?
She was asking to speak offline with Steve about this
I-
issue. Hello?
Okay, so we're having a problem with Member Young's audio.
Asked if Steve and I can speak offline in regards to the ventilation program.
And we would be happy to speak with you, Board Member Young, in regards to the scope and the program.
With Steve offline, and if possible, as a follow-up in regards to
Yes, Steve will be happy to do that, Member Young.
Within, great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Board Member Young.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Member Young. Thank you, Steve. So we will now move on or proceed with the calendared items 1 through 35. Number 1, Patty?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patty Bayross, and I am the new CIO here at the New York City Housing Authority. Thanks so much for your time today, and I'm presenting item number 1 for your consideration. This request is for authorization to ratify a funding increase of $993,277 to the Celco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless Agreement for wireless and cellular devices and associated service plans. The original agreement, New York State Office of General Services contract number PS 63766, was for a 5-year term for an amount not to exceed $5,334,421 under Board Resolution 15-3, 25-3. The contract was effective April 1st, 2015 and continued through March 31st, 2020. A $6.5 million increase was authorized by Board Resolution 18-5, 30-4 in May of 2018. The authority's use of wireless and cellular devices and associated services has dramatically increased over the past year due to critical business initiatives associated with the Next Generation NYCHA strategic initiative, combined with initiatives related to the agreement with HUD. It was necessary for IT to procure additional specialized devices for the elevator division and for heating plant technicians, which were required to support additional responsibilities. We also increased mobile devices to support field operations related to mandated remediation projects, such as lead, mold, and pest control. Prior to board approval, the general manager approved the funding increase to continue services in order for NYCHA to immediately utilize the funds for which ratification is sought during the COVID pandemic. NYCHA is fully intending to take advantage of reduced pricing by leveraging the Verizon Master Services Agreement, or MSA, established by the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, DO-IT, and was hoping to establish a new contract by April 1st. Due to delays associated with COVID, DO-IT's Verizon Wireless MSA is not yet registered. While we ultimately intend to leverage that MSA, NYCHA is simultaneously pursuing a contract leveraging the New York State's OGS master contract, and will leverage with whichever is faster and ultimately whichever has preferential pricing and terms. In the meantime, Verizon is continuing to provide the current footprint of wireless services. NYCHA IT will be coming back to the board with 2 items in the coming months. One is for funding to cover the gap between the contract expiration and commencement of the new contract. And 2 is approval and funding for the new 5-year contract via the state OGS or the DO-IT MSA. Thank you.
Question, Board Member Adams, good morning.
Good morning.
I've been reading quite a few emails and notices about disruption of services with Verizon going back a while since I've been here, off and on, periodically. And then I received another email stating that it affected the Section 8 online services for residents. So I'm just asking, what, in your opinion, why, with all these interruptions and inconveniences, why, in your opinion, why would it be feasible to continue to keep doing business with them, much less giving them an increase on the current contract? Because like me, I would just go to another provider and get better service. I mean, this has been ongoing for a while, off and on. And that was the first email I ever got from NYCHA stating that it affected residents directly. So.
Thank you for your question. Yes, we did experience a data center outage on Monday due to a Verizon issue that they were having. What we've been having conversations with them, we were in, they were on a troubleshooting call till the late hours on Monday. We've already requested a postmortem, a full root cause analysis to understand what actually went wrong. We have received a preliminary finding, which was insufficient. We went back to them and asked for more details, and we are having a series of calls with them, not only to address what happened earlier this week, but also to talk about better redundancy and better communications with them, better notifications and monitoring. In terms of why to go with Verizon, so there are some reasons that Verizon makes sense for NYCHA. They are, across all of the 5 boroughs. They do have coverage in areas that is consistent with what we need. We do also have, we have circuits and everything in place. That said, it's always in our interest to look at competition and to look at opportunities to save money and to improve the quality of our services for our residents in particular. So luckily, with the establishment of these MSAs that are available to us through participation agreements at DO-IT, we will be continuing to evaluate that on an ongoing basis. And while we will be establishing a contract, it is an amount not to exceed. At any time, we can reevaluate that approach. So at this point, for continuity of service. It's prudent for us to move forward with Verizon, but we certainly are continuing to look at options that are available to us where we can improve our service quality and save money.
Okay, I heard your answer, but it just befuddles me that this is going back a while, and you're doing an assessment now, but it's just I don't really understand. I don't understand the business sense of this, doing business with them like this for a long period of time and having this issue. It hasn't just been recently; it's been off and on ongoing for a while.
Yeah, so thank you for that point. And certainly I will make it my business to do a historical review of outages prior to my arrival and make sure that we consider all factors. Also, I just want to make the distinction between Verizon Wireless and traditional Verizon services. So this particular contract is for wireless services. So that would be for cell phones, tablets, the mobile devices used out in the field for inspections. I believe certainly the Monday situation was for Verizon proper. It was for the fiber lines and circuits that we have. While it is the same, company, there are different contracts and different services. But they certainly always warrant review, and that is something that we will take a look at.
Okay.
Okay, so
I'm happy to have a conversation offline about if there are specific concerns that you have or examples that you would like to review in more detail with me. I definitely understand the criticality. Those are services that people rely on. We want to make sure that they have availability at all times.
well, that won't be necessary. It just befuddles me that if you were paying for this service, I'll just say me, I would not go this long with these types of interruptions. And if the devices are different from the service, if the service goes down, then the devices that we're using with them just probably won't work. So I don't understand this at all, not whatsoever. But it won't be any reason to have any further conversation about it. It just doesn't seem to be feasible. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much. If no further questions, thank you, Patty. And we'll move on to item number 2, Anika. Unmute, please.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning. My name is Anika Lefcott, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I'm presenting item number 2 for your consideration. This resolution requests authorization to enter into a 5-year agreement with Sedgwick Claims Management Services, Inc., commencing on September 1, 2020, and continuing through August 31st, 2025, for an amount not to exceed $13,152,427. Sedgwick will serve as the third-party administrator for the authority's workers' compensation program to adjust claims and provide medical management services. The current third-party administrator contract expires on August 31st, 2020. NYCHA issued a request for proposals on January 31st. 3 firms viewed the solicitation, and 1 firm, Sedgwick, submitted a proposal. Any questions?
Are there no questions? Thank you so much, Anika.
Thank you.
Item number 3. Jillian?
Great. Good morning. My name is Jillian Connell, and I am the Managing Director of Business Operations for the Real Estate Development Department. And this morning, I present item number 3 relating to legal and consulting services for real estate law and real estate development. Specifically, I'm requesting authorization to amend Board Resolution 18-627-22, which authorized entering into 5 retainer agreements with 5 law firms for legal and consulting services regarding real estate law and real estate development matters for an initial 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options, with the goal of implementing a funding increase here today to the not-to-exceed amount on 2 of the contracts in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 3-year term and the 2 one-year renewal terms, which commenced on July 1st, 2018 and continuing through June 30th, 2023. So this request is for a funding increase in those two contracts. For background, to realize NYCHA's plans to rehabilitate existing public housing units, expand low-income housing opportunities for New Yorkers, Real Estate Development Department, in conjunction with the Law Department's Real Estate and Economic Development Division, are undertaking complex real estate development, financial, and leasing transactions that are expected to involve discretionary land use actions, environmental analysis, innovative tax or funding structures, and governmental approval. And they require advice and services from outside counsel to handle a portion of these real estate activities. So pursuant to Board Resolution 18-627-22, NYCHA entered into 5 retainer agreements to provide these services. The contractors and the vendors.
I don't have the document. The document's not up. I don't see the document. I don't see the resolution.
The vendors are Ballard Spar, Reno Kavanaugh, Peabody, Brian Cave, Amato Law Group, which were all procured through a publicly issued procurement, for a $6 million combined not to exceed cost for the 3-year initial term, with any balance to be applied to the optional renewals. And this amount was based on anticipated transactions and legal fees from outside counsel for previous real estate matters. However, the complex real estate development, financial, and leasing transactions have increased in volume and increased in frequency, and the panel has been used more frequently than anticipated. Therefore, real estate development is presenting this request for an increased retainer agreement amounts today. NYCHA's agreements with Reno Kavanaugh and Ballard Spar each have a $1.2 million not to exceed amount. Reno Kavanaugh has been authorized to perform $1,060,000 of work to date. Ballard Spar has been authorized to perform $1,298,000 of work to date. It has not yet been invoiced that amount or payments over that $1.2 million not to exceed. Based on the increased volume of anticipated transactions, real estate development requests an additional $4 million authorization in order to add $2 million to the Reno Kavanaugh not to exceed amount to allow for the continued provision of services, and $2 million to the Ballard Spar not to exceed amount for the continued provision of services and to cover services that were previously requested but not yet invoiced. So the result of this would bring the not to exceed amount for each of those firms to $3.2 million. I'm happy to take any questions about this request.
Okay. Thank you, Jillian. If there are no questions, we'll move on to item number 4. Daniel?
Madam Secretary, the items are not coming up on my screen. They're not moving along. They're presenting.
Okay.
Okay.
Could you reboot or try to do something? I'm not sure. Or IT folks, can you please contact Member Adams?
It's not an IT issue. It's the way you're sharing your screen. You're only sharing the top half of your screen, so you can only ever see every positive number. You can't see the other one.
Okay.
As you can see 2, you could see 4, you couldn't see 1, you couldn't see 3. That's how the screen's getting shared.
Hi, this is Joe Cortine. If you look on the right-hand side, there's a bar, a sliding bar, which you can click on and pull down, which gives you the lower item.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is Paula. I'm seeing them.
Okay.
Okay, well.
4 and 5 are up right now, for example.
That's not, I have my thumb on that right side and there's no bar there. So let's
okay. Member Adams, from your prior review of the items, did you have any questions?
Oh, not on the young lady just presented. No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Jillian. So we'll move on to item 4. Daniel?
Can you hear me, Jacqueline?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Townsend, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Strategy and Innovation, led by Executive Vice President Eva Trimble, and I'll be presenting number 4 for consideration. Today, we are seeking authorization to ratify the entering into an agreement with Guidehouse Incorporated for change management consulting services. which commenced on May 26, 2020, and is continuing through May 25th, 2023. The 3-year contract period includes an initial 1-year term and 2 one-year renewal options to be renewed automatically unless the authority at its sole discretion provides written notice of its intent not to renew. A bit of background about this project. As you know, the HUD-SDNY agreement requires NYCHA to submit an organizational plan to HUD-SDNY City. To comply with this requirement, NYCHA will develop a transformation plan, which will outline what's required in the agreement, changes to NYCHA's management, organizational and workforce structure, and overarching policies. The successful implementation of the transformation plan requires an effective change management program, including but not limited to regular communication with key stakeholders, employee training and consultation, consistent feedback loops with residents, and a number of other strategies to ensure that the changes to management structure and procedures as part of the transformation plan actually work. The change management program is in many ways the glue that makes the plan. Earlier this year, on March 11th, NYCHA released RFP 112829 for change management services, and on April 10th, received proposals from 10 firms, 2 of which were deemed non-responsive. After interviews with the top 3 firms, Guidehouse Incorporated emerged as the top scoring proposer, with a total contract cost less than our independent cost estimate, which we had projected as just over $2 million for the full 3-year period. Given that we have a deadline to submit the transformation plan this fall, the Department of Strategy and Innovation felt an urgency to bring Guidehouse on as soon as possible, and was given approval by the Chair and Chief Executive Officer to enter into an agreement prior to board approval. The not to exceed amount of the 3-year contract is $1,950,000, and broadly provide support to NYCHA in 3 key areas: assisting in the creation of the transformation plan while simultaneously developing a change management plan to implement those changes found in the transformation plan. Then, upon submission of the change management plan, assisting the authority in executing the change management initiatives. And finally, developing and submitting an enterprise-level governance framework to enable NYCHA to manage ongoing change, which includes on-call support after the change management plan is completed. I'll end in saying that Guidehouse has a proven track record of work at NYCHA. Previous projects include the support for the design of the customer walk-in centers and customer contact center, the stand-up of the compliance department, and currently assisting with the sunsetting of the AS400 system and the assessment of NYCHA's procurement function. Additionally, working on change initiatives at this scale is also well within Guidehouse's capability. Examples of other clients include Texas Department of Transportation, the MTA, the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, where they were able to, among other achievements, ensure a seamless launch of a new community care network, resulting in a 170% increase in healthcare appointments in less than 2 years and higher patient satisfaction scores across the country. So with that, the Office of Strategy and Innovation hereby requests that the board authorize the ratification of the contract with Guidehouse for change management services. Thank you so much for your time.
Is there any questions?
Yes, Paula Gavin.
Yes.
We spoke briefly, or I'd like to speak briefly again on measures of success and how we will define, their results and our satisfaction with those results.
Sure. So with the change management program, what we're going to do is we're going to, when we start to engage residents and we start to implement the changes in the transformation plan, we're going to set certain benchmarks, such as management's willingness to incorporate change, their understanding of the program, and other sort of benchmarks that'll be a part of surveys and engagement meetings and things like that. And then we'll track those over time. So as you implement new initiatives, whether that be a change to an operating model or whatever initiatives are going to be in the transformation plan, we'll be able to track the level to which staff, residents, and other external stakeholders are understanding and adapting to those new changes over time. But we have not developed the yet, though. We've just started to onboard guidehouse and get them familiar with the transformation plan, but more importantly, get them familiar with our engagement networks. So they're meeting with Sadia and Brian Honan and essentially every single department to learn more how we communicate. And then they're going to help us build out some of those metrics.
Super, thank you. I think it's really critical, and I'd love for you to share them with the board when they're defined.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Paula, it's Greg. Just one other observation. I think that there's really two kinds of things we're going to. One is the process of making the change occur, which Daniel's talking about here, and getting sort of the revamp of the organization done. But there's a second set of metrics about the property that will become part of the new culture. And those metrics as well would pertain to property performance. So both of them will need to be addressed as part of this transition. The actual process of moving from old NYCHA to new NYCHA, and what are the steps, and how are we going to do that, and who we're involving, and then also coming up with property-based metrics around how properties are performing. Those two things are going to happen together over the next. In some cases, the property-based stuff is also happening now as we begin to evaluate performance through the compliance department. We're learning about the things that we might need to do there, but there will be sort of both this higher set and then this other deeper set around the property management.
Great. And, you know, I was just really mostly focusing on the process of change management and particular communications to residents and their understanding of the changes. And
sure,
you know, did a good job of mentioning. So, but that other is ultimately probably the
yes, yeah, no, it's you know, one of the things we are doing is moving to, say, property-based budgets. There's going to be a whole set of things around that budgeting process, both for staff, but also ways to engage residents that are very different. So these things will be moving along together.
Super. Thank you so much to all of you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. If no further questions on item number 4, thank you, Daniel. We'll move on to items 5 through 10. Steve?
Good morning. My name is Stephen Lovesey. I'm the Executive Vice President for Capital Projects Division. I will be presenting board items 5 through 10. Board item number 5, Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to enter into 2 indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity IDIQ agreements with 2 firms for environmental investigation and abatement monitoring services at various developments citywide for a total not to exceed number of $30 million. The companies will be providing investigating, testing, and abatement monitoring for asbestos, lead, and mold at Capital Projects Division construction projects. The original cost estimate was for all of these services was around $48,991,000. But as we looked over our portfolio, as these are associated to each construction project, we modified that cost estimate down to the $30 million piece. Because these are IDIQs, there will be a minimum guaranteed amount of $200,000 for each firm, meaning that we will make sure that there are task orders for each firm of that amount. The task orders will be assigned through a streamlined competition selection process and a rotating basis. Once a task order is identified, the Section 3 hiring is identified. 10 firms submitted proposals, and there was an evaluation committee, 4 representatives from Capital Projects Division, a non-voting member from the procurement department, as well as a non-voting technical advisor to Capital. The evaluation committee identified 2 companies, one Genesis Environmental Consultants, Inc., and AirTech Environmental Corporation. At this point in time, there is a vendor name check for AirTech Environmental Corporation that has not been received yet. I'm sorry, that has been received and found no issues to preclude the award. The VNC for Genesis Environmental Consultants is still pending, and there will not be an award until the VNC is issued and vetted by the appropriate parties. The agreement is a 3-year term, and it will commence in July 25, 2020. If there are no further questions, or if there are no questions, I will move on to.
Right, Steve, I think it's June 25th, 2020, tomorrow, correct? Not July.
I'm sorry, you're right, June 25th. Thank you for that correction.
Steve, Board Member Adams here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you like to use metaphors, so the end of that presentation sounded like American Idol, where they're going to spin it around online and choose somebody or choose some vendors, right? And that's what's happening. We don't have anybody in place to do the work yet. That's what just, or did I misunderstand you?
You misunderstood me. Excuse me. We do currently have an IDIQ for asbestos for this type of work, the asbestos monitoring, investigation, and testing. But as these contracts either reach capacity or reach the culmination of time duration associated to them, we go out for new IDIQ contracts. This work is associated, so it's a third party that's associated to the capital projects work that we do. If we are doing a heating plant project, for example, replacement of the heating plant, we would need, depending on the project, if there is asbestos or lead or mold, we would need one of these third parties to do the prior investigation, the testing, and the abatement monitoring associated to that project.
All right, so we have people in place, you're saying, okay. All
yes.
Right. All right, move along. Okay.
Steve?
Yes.
Hi, Board Member Gonzalez. I'm sorry,
Right.
they probably went over this, but I'm looking at the number 5, and I don't see the names of the 2 firms.
It should be on page 3 of your briefing document, but the names of the firm are Genesis Environmental Consultants, Inc. and AirTech Environmental Corporation.
And the names are on page 4 of the resolution also.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
I have to go back because those are one of the ones that were missing the last time we spoke. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Steve?
I will move on to board item number 6. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to award 12 IDIQs, or indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity agreements for architectural and engineering services for facade inspection and safety program, also known as Local Law 11. This is for various developments citywide for a combined total not to exceed amount of $112 million. The IDIQ agreements will be to provide AE services for the Local Law 11 Capital Projects Division portfolio citywide. This is for the cycle 9 of the exterior facade inspections, as well as progress and final inspections of the repaired work to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. This is not for the construction work. This is just for the reporting and the professional services of architectural and engineering associated to that portfolio. The IDIQ agreements shall not exceed the $112 million. There is a minimum guaranteed amount of $250,000 for each firm. 24 firms submitted proposals, and there was an evaluation committee consisting of 6 representatives from Capital Projects Division, 1 non-voting member from the Procurement Department. Technical evaluations were done, and the evaluation committee looking at the 24 selected 12 firms. The firms, as I will read them out, are O&S Associates Inc., R&O or Raman and Ondajan Engineers and Architects PC. I apologize, I know I mispronounced that name. Superstructures Engineering and plus Architecture, PLLC. Pace Engineering PC, Experian Design Group, ZI Engineering PC, Design Work Consultants and High Maintenance New York Joint Venture, Hirani Engineering and Land Surveying PC, Thornton Tomasetti Inc., Architectural and Engineering Group PC, Indus Architectural PLLC, and MHM Engineering PC. The firms have acknowledged the Section 3 requirements, and as we do each task order, there would be a Section 3 hiring plan devoted to that task order, and that would be the same with the previous board item. We've submitted the VNCs, and the VNCs are pending.
Steve, this is Paula Gavin. I have a question, or just really a request that you state again the estimated number of facades that'll be included in this.
So this would be the entire cycle 9 exterior facade inspections. This would be the entire portfolio of buildings 6 stories and higher. And that's not development. That's for facade inspection. You have to do it building by building as you submit it to the Department of Buildings.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, I will move on to item number 7. Item number 7, Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to amend the retainer agreement with the law firm of Nixon Peabody LLP to increase the not to exceed amount of the retainer agreement for legal services in connection with the design, build, and construction management at risk project delivery methods by $1,219,000. On August 28th, 2019, NYCHA entered into a retainer agreement with Nixon Peabody to provide those legal services for and guidance on the design, build, and CM risk project delivery methods for Capital Projects Division services. We did this in connection and with the assistance of the Law Department. That required initial board authorization not to exceed amount of $160,000. Since the award of this retainer agreement, Nixon Peabody has been working closely with the Law Department, CPD, and NYCHA's third-party owners advisor and project management consultants in connection with the issued RFQ or request for qualifications for various design build heating system projects and the associated RFP requests for proposals and related legal issues. There was an addition to the retainer once. It was part of Board Resolution 2129-8, and collectively the award amount and funding increase amended to $860,000. The second funding increase that is in front of the board today, Nixon Peabody has been actively engaged in the preparation of the RFQ and RFP due to additional requests and needs and additional document reviews that were not anticipated in the original estimate. NYCHA has needed to increase the funding associated to this retainer. The revised amount for Nixon Peabody will be $2,079,000.
Steve?
Yes, Board Member Adams.
This firm, you have like a quick example of how the work that they've consulted with, how it was beneficial to us in the project or something going forward? Anything in particular?
Yes, thank you very much for asking that question. So, Capital Projects Division recently has been doing a procurement system called Design, Bid, Build. We design it as an architectural and engineering firm. We put it out to bid. Contractors bid on that package, that set of documents, those contracts, and then the process is constructed. There are multiple players involved in that. Through the generosity of the state of New York and our work with HUD, we are allowed to do design build. It is a different model to produce projects in which the design and construction is teamed up together in one construction project rather than designing it separate, bidding it separate, and constructing it. This saves money and time for us because, as you can imagine, we only procure a design build firm once, and then that design build firm works together to complete the projects. And there are many successful state projects and city projects that are using the design build. We have currently 3 design build contracts on the street, one for the heating plant program as part of the state funding, one for the pneumatic waste program, and one for the waste management or building sites. Nixon, because of that, all of the contracts that one has have to change. Our contracts are associated to a design bid build method, and now the contracts have to change to a design build method, as well as the rules of engagement for procurement, for reviewing change orders. All of those things are different in this different delivery model. And so both our advisors who we hired to do the design build work. Capital Projects Division, the New York City Housing Authority, has not had this authority in the past, have been working to make sure that the documents that we are putting on the street match the industry standards. And at this point in time, we are very pleased with the work of both our advisors, our PMO, and the law firms. The program so far has been very successful in the RFQ and RFP stages. We had over 12 RFQ respondents, and we are moving into, we've already moved into the RFP process with those design build firms, and all of them have been very pleased with the documents that we have presented to the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Okay. Item 8.
Items 8, and I would like to do items 8 and 9 together. This is seeking authorization to ratify 2, item 8 and item 9, change orders in the total amount of $11,903.23 to the contractor of M. Bullion Construction Company, Inc. for the community center renovations at Astoria Houses. These change orders are being presented to the board. The culminated, because of the cumulative value of the change orders together with previous change orders on the contract exceeds 10% of the contract value. Pursuant of the board resolution 17-1/25-6, contract number GR1611734 was awarded to Bullion in the amount of $1,198,673 for the renovation of a community center at Astoria Houses located within building number 5. This was for interior renovations of that community center, including the kitchen. Prior to these 2 change orders, there have been 4 change orders issued to the contract, and we've provided an outline of those 4 change orders. The change order number 5 and change order number 6 are due to our work with the Department of Buildings and closing out this contract. This is a ratification in order to close out the project and not to incur additional costs. The work was moved forward, and now we are submitting the change orders to you. Change order number 5 is specifically around the community center kitchen. It was originally designed and in the drawings as a warming kitchen, the historical drawings as a warming kitchen. The Department of Building determined that the requirements would make it more of a commercial kitchen, or desired it to be a commercial kitchen and not a warming kitchen. And in order to obtain the necessary Department of Building approvals and permits and not further the delay of the completion of the project, we directed the contractor to do the work associated to that request. In addition to this, I think it's going to be a better project. This will allow that community center to provide additional services in that area in regards to the food service program. Change order number 6. During the inspections by the Department of Building, the Department of Buildings requested the removal of an abandoned gas pipe in the vicinity of the kitchen in order to obtain the required DOP approvals. Again, in order to prevent further delay in completion of the project, we directed the contractor to remove the abandoned gas pipe so that way we could comply with the Department of Buildings inspectors and get a sign-off for this project. We're seeking authorization to ratify change orders number 5 and number 6. Sorry, I should have said this, change order number 5 is for $3,737.26. Change order number 6 is for $8,165.97. Change order number 5 was negotiated down. Change order number 6 was negotiated, but it remains the same.
Okay. All right. No questions. We can move on to item 10.
The last item for the board, we seek authorization to reject all bids for a contract for the community center kitchen expansion at Bronx River Houses. Capital Projects Division received 3 bids for this contract. The first lower bidder, Project I Consultants Inc., was deemed non-responsive for failure to submit letters of assent for its sealed list of subcontractors as required by the project labor agreement terms and outlined in the authority's bid documents. The remaining bids were 72.71% and 96.96% above the authority's cost estimate, which we believe and deem is excessive. CPD will review the documents and make the necessary changes and put the project back out to bid once that is done.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time. Sorry. If there are no questions, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, now we'll move on to items 11 through 35, all of which are funding increases. Joe?
Yes, hi, this is Joe Cortine, Vice President Operations. Item number 11, says with state 11 through 30 are for authorization for funding increases to these contracts. Item number 11 is seeking this for purchase and delivery of various tools and toolkits with W.W. Granger in the amount of $88,555.52. Various developments citywide. The contract term March 6th, 2017 through September 30th of 2020. Questions? Okay. Item number 12 is for purchase and delivery of various maintenance and repair operations supplies. This could be drill twist, grease, chains, lubricants, hand saws, screwdrivers, various types of tools and utensils. It's for Fastenal Company for these items, and it's for the amount of $61,250. Various developments citywide at Long Island City Warehouse. Contract term is August 24th, 2016 through September 30th of 2020.
Okay. Next.
Items 13 and 14 or for use of tub glazing, and the contracts with City Star Renovation Incorporated in the amount of $46,106 for item number 13. And the contract term is July 30th, 2018 through July 29th of 2021. And item number, 14, is the contract term of September 10th, 2018 through September 9th, 2021, various Bronx developments in the amount of $142,800. Excuse me. Items 15 through 18 are with Dirty Gloves Drain Services, LLC, for sewer rotting and water jetting, including closed-circuit television camera inspection, generally for the waistlines. We have clog issues. This is various developments citywide. That's in the amount of $163,820.40. Contract term is May 11th, 2018 through May 10th of 2021. That's 15. 16, is for various developments in Brooklyn, and it's also again for sewer rotting. August contract term is August 3rd, 2018 through August 2nd, 2021, in the amount of $178,021.78. Item number 17 is for contract term of May 11th, 2018 through May 10th of 2021, various developments in Queens and Staten Island in the amount of $100,630.66.
Okay.
Item number 18 is the contract term is August 15th, 2018 through August 14th of 2021, various developments in the Bronx in the amount of $46,615.27. Okay. Items 19 and 20 are contracts awarded for acid wash for concrete. And the contractor is United Eagle Renovations. For item 19, it's various Bronx developments. In the amount of $30,000 with the contract term of August 28th, 2018 through August 27th of 2021. Item number 20 is various developments, mixed finance, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island, in the amount of $25,508.44. Contract term is August 16th, 2018 through August 15th of 2021.
Okay. 21.
Items 21 through 25 are all for maintenance and painting of apartments, various contractors. So I'll read off the contractor name as I was doing before for each. New Essex Floor Covering Incorporated. This is for the contract term is August 7th, 2018 through August 6th of 2021 in the amount of $100,000. And it's for Roosevelt Houses 1 and 2. Item number 22. Is for June, contract term June 24th, 2019 through June 3rd, 2022, in the amount of $233.20 at Pominock Houses. We looked into this and we got responses on this as far as the uptick in the usage on that contract. And it was generally that there was the mold initiative in the locations and the use of some of the initiatives we had, like blitzes, which utilized painters. So there was a move to using the contracts to complete to do a lot of the larger jobs and complete the work to cut down on the backlog, existing backlog of painting. Item number 23 is for, this one's Beasler Painting Incorporated. And the contract term is February 23rd, 2020 through February 22nd of 2021. In the amount of $100,000 at Monroe Houses. Item number 24 is the contract term is from November 29, 2018 through November 28th of 2021. In the amount of $100,000, Frederick Samuel Houses. Item number 25 is with Moonlight Painting Incorporated. The contract term is March 19, 2019 through March 18, 2022 in the amount of $1,586,646. And this location is Grant Houses. And the same issue at this location regarding the uptick in the use of the contracts. And it was for staff being utilized also for the initiatives like blitzes and such. Item number. Sure.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, in these painting of apartments, it's usually something very simple and they follow. But are we also addressing mold and mildew when we're doing this?
Yeah, so that was part of, I think, the increases because of the time it takes as far as the our painters doing the mold and mildew, and in case where a contractor is doing it, they would be required as well.
Okay, and it covers all the contracts that we just, this bundle of contracts that we just went over.
That would be, yes, maintenance and painting of apartments, yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Item number 26 is for removal and installation of vinyl composition floor tiles in apartments. Contractor is contract with USA Construction Incorporated. And for contract term of November 26, 2019 through May 25th of 2021 in the amount of $50,000 at Wrangle Houses.
27.
Item number 27 is contract awarded to Bagyani General Construction Incorporated for wood floor repair and refinish. The contract term is February 7th, 2019 through February 6th of 2022 in the amount of $101,312.37. Various mixed finance developments citywide. Item number 28 is for a contract awarded to Sahara Construction Corporation for emergency mechanical pumping and cleaning. And the contract term is January 29th, 2019 through January 28th of 2022 in the amount of $665,465.25. Various mixed finance developments in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island.
So,
Yes.
pardon me, this is just to have the monies in the event we need to do the work on these emergency mechanical pumps.
Right, it's to add capacity.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 29 is contract awarded to EIA Electric Incorporated for servicing of electromagnetic locks at various locations in the Bronx. The contract term is September 6, 2018 through September 5th of 2021 in the amount of $279,000. Item number 30 is a contract with Max Builders Incorporated for excavating and shoring of trenches for underground pipe repair. This various mixed finance developments in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island. The amount of $106,409.12. Contract term October 23rd, 2018 through October 22nd of 2021. And this is related to, repairs, as well, I guess it's self-evident. Excavation to do trenches, usually dealing with underground pipe related to either heating or the plumbing, that we have breakage, waste lines, and supplies. Items 31 through 35 are seeking authorization for ratification of existing contracts. And the item number 31, is a requirement contract with RJ Bruno Incorporated for labor only for plumbing services and low pressure board and associated equipment in the amount of $500,000. And the contract term is May 29th, 2019 through May 28th of 2022.
Hello?
At various Brooklyn developments. Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Board Member Adams here. I had requested 3 original documents regarding this vendor, which was their insurance, which I did receive that, even though it was late. Their assets, which was written in, and I didn't get the actual document, and I didn't get anything on the safety record unless I did not read it properly. There was nothing on those on the other 2 items at all. This is the vendor that's had numerous outside issues, and I didn't receive 2 of the items unless I misread something, and it took me almost 3 hours to get through the stuff that was sent. I had asked for it to be sent Monday so I could respond with these questions before the meeting. That was not done.
All right. I have to apologize for that. There was a number of things we were slow getting to, so that was one of them.
So on Madam Secretary,
Yes, sir.
on item number 31, I'll be extending my vote for that one.
You'll be abstaining. Okay.
Yes. It was a prior one. I guess we'll do it at the end. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is just item 31, RJ Bruno, correct?
Item 31, there was a prior one too. Yes, ma'am. Number 1.
Okay, so you also abstaining from item number 1?
Number 1 and 31. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Continue, please.
Okay. Item number 32 is our contract with Penn Enterprises Incorporated for general mechanical construction and trade renovation work in the amount of $7 million, various Manhattan developments. Contract term is December 2nd, 2019 through December 1st of 2021. Now, in this, we requested information on this, and sorry, it's going off the screen. From the heating department as to the increase, and it has to do generally with regards to hot water boiler replacement, hydronic systems, heat riders or valves replacement, and balancing boiler tube replacement in some of the boilers that we have. Gas trains, that's the supply train that goes to the boiler. The expansion tanks and heat circulating pumps. So it's various very, very integral and important pieces of our heating plants that are being replaced and installed. In some instances, it's also hot water heater tanks, hot water boiler tanks, and also the instantaneous hot water systems being installed at the various buildings around the authority. That was an increased use on that. It's because they had estimates, anywhere up to like $6 million as far as making these new investments. So the amount is to allow for capacity. to support that effort to improve the heating systems.
This is Paula, Gavin.
Yes, yes.
But it is such a huge change. I mean, it was originally 1.8 million to go up by 7 million. Was it really a forecasting process, or is it really the conditions just changed dramatically?
There might be somebody on heating who might be able to answer that, but just to kind of.
I don't know if Javier is on.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So to answer the question, it was sort of both. I mean, every year we look at our operation throughout the course of the heating season, and we identify different components at specific developments, and this is part of that process. And so the increase in capacity, to answer your question, it was related to both.
If I could just add to that, I think that every year Javier and his team does an assessment of what needs to get done. We then have to go and ask for additional budget items or potentially ask for additional budget monies. We want to make sure that we can get work done as quickly as possible in order to maintain heat during the season, and we do a lot of our work during the off season. So what we try to do is utilize the contracts that are in place so that we can get the work done as quickly once it's identified. And in this instance, we needed to add capacity so we could get that work done as quickly as possible. And then the conditions of various, we are not necessarily aware of what the conditions are until we get in there and do our assessment during the off season.
Paula, this is Greg. I want to add just one other observation that Vito and Javier and Joey and I have been meeting about the preventive maintenance program for the across the portfolio, and the numbers that we're actually looking at over this year and next year are in the vicinity of $40 million. So contracts like this represent both work that we have to do because we may be demanded to do it because of a repair or unexpected condition, and also the ability to do this other kind of work together. And it takes a little while to get used to these numbers, but we have to remember that the heating plant need across the entire portfolio is actually in the billions. And when we put contracts like this in front of the board, partly it's because of the scale, partly it's because we need the capacity to supplement if we have repair issues, and also to do the preventive maintenance work that Joey and Javier both mentioned. So these are big numbers, but we feel like as finish this contract up, we have capacity with this additional change, and we'll be coming to the board probably with more work once we set up the next round of preventive maintenance and also for repairs. So I just wanted to add that comment for consideration.
Yeah, and that's very helpful, because what I'm hearing or I'm grasping is that given preventative maintenance plus the needs that come up,
Yes, yeah,
we pre-forecasted what we thought we needed as capacity.
yeah, yes. And the other thing I would say, I mean, I think the heat team has identified a really important set of projects in the one we're discussing, and we'll have to fund that. I mean, we'll have to provide money either through an existing contract or under a new contract, depending on which procurement method is most expeditious. But these are big numbers. I mean, if you think about it, to be thinking of a PM program that's hitting right around 40 million over the next couple of seasons, that's a large number.
And absolutely preventative is the idea. So thank you.
Yes, that's right. Because I'd rather take the part out now when we don't need it than take it out in the middle of December or January.
Exactly. Thank you
Yes.
all for
Yeah.
Chairman Russ?
Yes, sir.
I think they have done something on this level in a couple of buildings already, I believe, right? Something like this.
Yes.
And it's just the conversation has been somewhat favorable. So when you come back to the board, we're looking forward to, to your update. Just work like this is it like under like warranty and guarantee work on this level, or?
Well, it depends on the circumstances in that boiler room. I think we have all different kinds of reasons why. But once we install a new part, there is a warranty at least for part of that on the part.
Hi, it's Joey. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this isn't work that would be covered under the warranty. A lot of this work is because our systems are so old that we have to keep them running. So it's not a warranty. We're way past the warranty issue for what this work is being done for.
Okay, Ms. Gotch, I got you.
Okay.
Okay. Items 33, 34, and 35 are looking to ratify funding increases for requirement contracts with TR Pipe Incorporated for replacement of vacuum pump units. Now, vacuum pump units take out the air out of the lines in a heating system and the condensate that accumulates from the water vapor in those systems. So allow that to come out of the pipes, the air and the condensate out of the pipes, for one, to keep the heating at the highest level that it should be without needing a refire on the boiler. Also to allow for distribution through the system. It moves much more easily through the system with lower pressure needed. Again, an efficiency in terms of the heating plant work. And it allows the steam to travel and operate, as said, at a lower pressure on the lines as well. So these contracts are for, the first one for item 33 is for Manhattan in the amount of $2,500,000. The contract term is September 7th, 2018, continuing on through September 6th of 2021. The next is the Queens of Staten Island in the amount of $2 million. And the contract term is February 28th, 2019 through February 27th of 2022. And item number 35 is for Brooklyn in the amount of $3 million. Contract term was September 7th, 2018 through September 6th of 2021. Questions?
I have a general question. I was going to ask it at an earlier resolution, but I guess I can ask it as a general question. So if we're currently working on, let's say, tub glazing, okay, and you have one contract that covers the 4 boroughs, what would be the need for another contract to do the same work just in one borough? Why not include that one borough with the other one that you did that included the 4 boroughs?
There may be
13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
Resolution 13 and 14.
Right.
13 is for tub glazing, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island. 14 is just the Bronx. Why not include it in the same? Why a separate contract?
Yeah, it's from what I was told, it's not uncommon for that to happen, but it usually has to do with the need at a location, not to expend the general contract that might be out there, the additional contract, because the Bronx may use it more heavily.
Okay, just curious.
And that could be at a given time. Depends on the timing.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Because this is a virtual meeting, and I believe Vice Chair Garcia had to leave. She had a hard stop at 12 noon. I'm going to take another vote for another attendance for voting purposes. So please respond here. Chair Ross?
Here.
Board Member Adams?
Here.
Board Member Garcia? Board Member Gavin?
Present.
Board Member Giwold?
Present.
Board Member Gonzalez?
Here.
Board Member Young?
Here.
Thank you so much. Chair, 35 items were presented for board approval. May I have a motion to approve the 35 items with a notation that Board Member Adams is abstaining from items 1 and 31, and that Vice Chair Garcia is absent from the vote?
So moved.
Okay, was that Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay, second?
Second, Matt.
You say the name, please. Member Young, Member Adams, who seconded, please? Thank you.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And none opposed. Thank you very much. Now, being that all matters before the board today have been addressed, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Motion.
Okay, Member Young, second?
Second, Matt.
Matt, thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. I'm recording the end time at 12:19 p.m. Thanks to everyone who participated. The next board meeting is scheduled for July 29th, 2020 at 10 a.m. Everyone be well and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Right. Bye-bye.
Good day, everyone.